Hello and welcome YouTube. Another video we have. This time we're looking at chapter 17, Secure Protocols. Okay, let's look at the objectives we have. So from the exam 3.1, given a scenario, implement secure protocols. And how to measure ourselves. We'll be able to compare and contrast protocol security. So obviously, you know the non-secure ports and the secured ones, and implement more secure network protocols. Okay, so a brief overview of what protocols we'd be looking at. We've got DNS and DNSSEC. We have SSH, which is kind of weird because on its own, this book didn't even mention Telnet. Um, SMEME or Secure Meme. We have SRTP, um, LDAP-S, FTP-S, SFTP, not to be confused, SNMP, the different versions up to version 3, HTTPS, IPsec, POP3, and IMAP. Okay, so let's dig in and see what we got here. Try not to read off the slides too much. Try to be more natural, but I do have some notes and stuff. And yeah, we'll just see how this goes. Okay, DNSSEC. Well, some of you know DNS, domain name systems. And this is the security extension. So if you ever hear DNSSEC, that means domain name system security extensions. So what exactly is it? Overview. So when you put a website into a browser and you browse the web, it replies back in the octets, the 4 different octets that it knows, in IPv4 in this case, and sends you back the address. Well, humans don't need to memorize this number. We just need to know the name, which is easier for us to do. Okay, so unlike DNS, which originally is a UDP request that uses UDP port 53, DNSSEC uses TCP, made a little typo. Yeah. Okay, need to review more. It uses TCP port 53. Okay, so yep, like we said, it translates our domain names into IP addresses. And there's different DNS records that are used for email delivery as well, and lookups. Okay, so the DNS protocol uses port 53 for queries. TCP can be used for zone transfers as well. Um, DNSSEC validates the data of DNS, and it provides data integrity, which is great. So on the CIA triangle, you'll have to visualize this for different concepts, makes it easier. It does provide integrity, but it doesn't really help with availability or confidentiality. Okay, moving on to SSH. SSH uses port 22. Um, so it uses a public asymmetric encryption key. So there usually is a private key and a public key. Um, Here are examples of like a key when you try to SSH into a server. Like this looks like Ubuntu or something. And we can see the RSA of the open SSH key here. And you can accept it and say, yes, I'll use this key and create a session. Or you could say, no, I don't trust that key, makes it more secure. Here's another example of SSH window prompt, making a successful connection in Mac. Okay. This is a funny one because there's no unsecure version of it. I mean, there is Telnet, but it's a totally different protocol. Okay. So SMEME or secure multi-purpose internet mail extensions. So when we need to secure the encryption sent between emails, there is a key that will cipher the data over a private key, and it will also decrypt it. So this is really about key signing. Think cryptographic email. So meme is just a standard for transmitting binary data in email. So they're sent via plain text, and yeah, they are received in plain text. So it's not a very secure protocol at all. And it uses base64 encoding. Um, so there's no security at all with these. And if you send any data in here, it's readable. Okay, SBEAM or Secure Multipurpose Internet Mail Extensions is a standard for public key encryption, and it's built into most email clients. Okay, so SRTP, I'm actually learning this right now at work, or I'm setting up different webcams, and I see this in the options menu. Can be also used with phones and whatnot. So Secure Real-Time Transport Protocol, or SRTP, uses port 5004. Um, and it can be sending information between phones, not to be confused with SIP, which I'll also talk about, which uses port 5060 and 5061 to talk to the server. I just really like this picture. Devices can use it to talk amongst another in IP network. I also saw this with cameras, another example. Okay, lightweight directory access protocol over SSL, or now it should be TLS, since SSL will be depreciating pretty soon. Okay, so this uses TCP 636 without the SSL, and then with secure encryption, it uses port 3269. So it's a directory basically. This also is pretty common in like Active Directory. So if you have that set up in your IT infrastructure, then you will also see these directory protocols for finding people and information. So it's transmitted like a directory of information, different users, their email addresses, where they work, their organization, their OU, blah, 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 different ways to identify things in your IT infrastructure. Yep, it does. It's included in Active Directory datasets. It's although it's transmitted insecurely, it can be used with SSL over LDAP, which is called LDAP-S. Um, and it has to wait for the SSL handshake first, and then it sends the data that it needs to, which kind of sounds funny. So the request is sent um, insecurely. So yeah, it's a little confusing. Anyway, should be depreciated. Okay, next one. File Transfer Protocol Secure, or FTPS. So this uses port 989 for the data and 990 for the control or the session. Not to be confused with the insecure versions. So this can be used with SSL or TLS, doesn't matter. Since SSL is being depreciated, you'll see TLS is a lot more common. Okay, next. Now, the other ones that we talked about were SSL and TLS sending the traffic, but here, this one's a bit different. This is SSH over file transfer protocol. That means that it creates an SSH tunnel first, like it normally would with SSH, and then it sends the data through that tunnel. Um, so yeah, it's a bit funny. This seems to be more of the native version of the two, and this is just like, oh, we just made a tunnel, kind of like making a VPN or something, right? And then sending some data over it. Similar idea. Okay. Uh, Next we have Simple Network Management Protocol, and there's three different versions. They use TCP port 161 and 162. So the first version was not very secure, and second version was better, but still had some vulnerabilities in it that were not very secure. So SNMP is an application layer protocol, can't talk, part of the IP suite of protocols, and it can be used to manage and monitor devices, including network devices, computers, and other devices connected to the IP network. All versions of SNMP the SNMP require port 161 and 162 to be open. Okay. Hypertext Transfer Protocol over SSL or TLS. So when you browse the web, you can see, not here though. Let's go to, I don't know, any website. You should be able to see if there's HTTP in it, but it doesn't display. So I won't waste too much time. Okay. Um, so Hypertext Transfer Protocol is used with SSL or TLS to encrypt it. If you didn't use one of those protocols to encrypt it, it would just be in plain text like this. So username and password. However, when you have your certificates to encrypt the data and create a tunnel between back and forth, the data would look like this. So it's totally scrambled and you can't read it. Okay. So it uses port 443. It can be used with SSL, it's being depreciated. It can be used with the public key encryption method to exchange a symmetric key. And it satisfies confidentiality and integrity, as well as authentication. The last version, version 3, will become outdated and we're going to be using it with TLS exclusively. Okay, there are too many security issues with SSL, and majority of commercial servers are employed with SSL have been retired already. So TLS is a standard for encryption and replaces SSL. TLS updates the mechanisms employed by SSL, although sometimes referred to as SSL is a separate standard, which is a little funny, right? Um, well, TLS can work with like anything. SSL is more specific. Okay. Too many notes. Shouldn't read every little thing. Okay, IPsec. IPsec has a lot. There's like 3 slides here. IPsec has a lot of cool stuff. So I like IPsec. Okay, security features of IPsec. What you need to know immediately. Yeah, has a lot of different features. Okay, access control, connectionless integrity, traffic flow, confidentiality. Um, cannot replay packets. If you do, yeah, it'll block it or send alerts. And keeps the data on the network secure. And what I think is really cool is can work with routing. So it can work in layer 3 or layer 2. Doesn't matter. Okay. Uh, and can be used with different routing protocols like IGP, BGP. It can also work with ICMP, so reply to echoes and pings. Yeah, so it can be used internally, externally. Um, really flexible, can do a lot of different things. Okay, the IPsec protocol series has a sweeping array of services is designed to provide. We already talked about that. I won't get too repetitive. So there's different modes. Like I said, there's transport mode and there's tunnel mode. So you could have different gateways and you could route to each other or keep it internal. Doesn't matter. Can work both ways. IPsec uses the term security association to describe unidirectional combination of specific algorithm and key selection to provide protected channel. If the channel is bidirectional, then 2 SAs can be set up. So when we look at this, there's 2 different kinds of encapsulations. So the authentication header, and there's also the payload, AH, or the ESP. So there's specific methods of implementation. IPsec is an open framework that allows different vendors to use the industry standards for specific tasks. So there's all kinds of different encryption standards that it'll work with. Diffie-Hellman is one, ECDH, Diffie-Hellman, the ephemeral cipher of Diffie-Hellman, if I remember correctly. Okay, um, all kinds of different SHA-1s and 2s, triple des, Cha-Cha 2020, all these different encryption algorithms um, you can use IPsec with, so it's very flexible. Okay, for traffic security, has two header extensions, both defined by IP datagrams. The AH, when added to an IP datagram, ensures the integrity of the data and also the authentication of the data's origin. So to cover both privacy and integrity, both headers can be used at the same time. So yeah, privacy should have integrity there. Anyway, next. Tunnel and transport. So we were talking about tunnel and transport. So there's routing and then there's also transport mode. You can have it end to end, like nodes, or you can have it from either routers and gateways. Doesn't matter. So security of packet traffic is provided between endpoint nodes, each machine in each network, and not at the terminal host machines itself. It could be more secure that way. Okay, last ports we'll be talking about will be for email, POP3, or Post Office Protocol, or Internet Message Access Protocol, or IMAP. We have the port numbers here. POP3 is 110, Secure POP3 is 995, IMAP is 143, and Secure IMAP is 993. Man, ports all over the place, huh? SMTP 25, secure relay of that SMTP can be 587, and SMTP over TLS is 465. Actually, I set Office 365 up with this for scanning different emails to scan the email. Okay, so the IMAP refers to POP3 and IMAP 4. Okay, we talked about that. We talked about the port numbers can be used with SSL or TLS. Both of them can be. Start TLS can be turned on to override SSL. Yeah, I pretty much already said everything else. Okay, thank you for watching. It's a long one, but yeah, a lot of good, interesting slides. I really liked IPsec information from this book. So if you do like these slides, if you enjoyed this, please read the book. Okay. Thank you for watching. Take care.